We'll ponder and name while we show you sports because, let's be honest, we all need a minute to process what happened again. For the Pacers, another wild comeback by Indiana. Tim Legler is going to help us process it, understand it, all in seconds.
And while we're on comebacks, the Stars on their home ice down 2 heading into the third, then an offensive explosion. The Oilers dazed and confused after what they saw in that period. But there's no crazy like the crazy we saw at the Garden tonight. Pacers Knicks, let's pop the top on this already. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals at Madison Square Garden, and this would be an epic. Due to time constraints, we move forward in the programming to the fourth. Knicks up 3. TJ McConnell, dribble drive. And Jalen Brunson fouls McConnell. That's his 5th foul with 10 minutes left in the game. Knicks go timeout. Brunson has to take a seat. First Knicks possession afterward. OG Anunoby. Contested 3. Knicks by 5. Next Knicks possession. Anunoby gets it down low. Working Benedict Mathurin off the window. Knicks by 7. Then they're up by 9. All of this happening without Brunson. The reject right there by Deuce McBride. Look at him get up. Pascal Siakam. Less than a minute later, Knicks up 12. Karl Anthony Towns, baby hook. Knicks up by 14. Next possession, Josh Hart to Anunoby, who lays it in. The Knicks on a 14-0 run after Brunson commits that 5th personal and takes a seat. 2 minutes left in the fourth. You figure this is over. Aaron Nesmith had other ideas. Knocks down that 3. Gets it back. Hunting triples. Spreading a little leg kick there to get it in. And then another leg kick 3. Nesmith just going nuts. And the Knicks fans are going nuts in a whole different way. Last seconds. Knicks up 2. Tyrese Haliburton backs up, shoots. He misses. No, he didn't. It comes back down through the twine. He goes over to Reggie Miller and gives him the choke signal. Unbelievable shot. He thought it was the game winner. It turns out it was the game tire.
Haliburton driving. He's in the lane. He nearly lost it. He backs up and unloads a 3. Oh! That did not happen! It hit the back of the rim. It popped high into the air, and it dropped gently through the net.
There's the yellow sneaker on the line. Shades of Kevin Durant a few years ago in the playoffs, so we've got overtime instead of a Pacers win. Overtime was pretty good as well. Knicks up 1. Haliburton jackknifes, takes contact, and gets it to crawl over the front of the rim. And then he pulls up from deep. Obi Toppin, the former Knick, cleans up. Pacers back up by 1. The Knicks come back. Brunson loses it. Still Knicks ball. Brunson the last one to touch it. Look at it again. No, it's now Pacers basketball. Reversed on replay. And then the former Knick Toppin back at the Garden haunting his old team with the crunch. Pacers go up by 3. 12 seconds left. Knicks need a bucket. Preferably a triple. Brunson, step back, launches, nothing. But the Knicks get it back. Karl Anthony Towns barely grazes the front of the rim. Then there's a scramble. Ball's loose. What's happening? Off the Knicks, Pacers ball with a fraction of time left. The Pacers with a miraculous Game 1 win in overtime. 138-135, the final.
Aaron, how the heck do you guys keep doing this over and over again in the playoffs?
We're just a resilient group. I say it all the time. We just never quit on a fight, and we got a special locker room.
We've shown all year that we can win in some mysterious, weird ways, some funky ways. We've had to do it in the playoffs, had to do it at the end of the season. So we just figure out ways to win, and really proud of this group for that effort.
I mean, in the playoffs, when you win, it's the best thing ever. When you lose, the worst thing ever. And so the best way to deal with all that is just stay level-headed and making sure we have each other's backs. Obviously not the way we wanted to finish the game. But I mean, like you said, tomorrow we're going to have to watch film and get better and just making sure that we're ready for game 2.
Obviously disappointment when you fall short, but it doesn't. We have to take a look at the film, make our corrections, and then we got to change quickly for game 2. We got to be ready for game 2, and that's all you look at. So you have to take disappointment and turn that into more determination.
Jalen Brunson's the clutch player of the year, but Tyrese Haliburton's been the clutch player of this postseason. He's now hit a game-tying or go-ahead shot in the final 5 seconds of regulation or overtime 3 times this postseason. Did it in Game 5 against the Bucks, in Game 2 against the Cavs. The first player since 1998 with 3 game-tying or go-ahead shots in the final 5 seconds of the fourth quarter or OT in a single postseason.
Tim Legler is here. Look, it's late in the game. The Pacers are down 14. Raise your hand if you thought this game was over.
I'll raise 2.
I'm going to say David's hand is up, but we can't actually confirm that. Yeah. The point is the Pacers not only came back to force overtime, they came back and won this game. How do you describe what we saw?
For me, that might be the greatest comeback I've seen in an NBA playoff game. I don't think that's overstating it because of the circumstances. And not only were they down 14, under 3 minutes to go, the Knicks really had taken control of the game with their defense when Jalen Brunson went out of the game with his 5th foul. So what happens? Somebody's going to have to get hot. And Aaron Nesmith shot 43% from the three-point line, so he's certainly a capable three-point shooter. That doesn't begin to describe what he did in the fourth quarter of this game. Repeatedly just hunting shots. First couple, he was open, and now the Knicks, you can see that hard closeout by Hart. He falls. They're doing everything they can to keep the ball out of his hands, but he still was getting loose. So he single-handedly cut into that deficit, and then you eventually set up this possession at the end of the game for Tyrese Haliburton. Great awareness on his part.
Okay, so you can't get to overtime unless Haliburton actually makes that shot. What did you see? As everything is unfolding, what are you seeing?
Well, he clearly thought they're going to get extended on him. It's in a 2-point game, and that's what he got. So he beats his first man off the dribble. You see the backline defender step up, Robinson. So now Haliburton was going to shoot a floater, he said, but he lost control of the ball. He looked up at the clock and realized he had enough time to get out. He wanted to shoot a 3, didn't quite get there, ends up with his foot on the line. But he had enough awareness to know that's where he had to go in the moment to get enough space to get a shot off. They think they win it here, obviously. He makes the choke sign with Reggie Miller in the house. I mean, that would have been an all-time iconic moment. Great poise, great patience. And I want to make one point. None of that's possible, by the way, without Rick Carlisle holding on to his challenge the entire game. And most coaches, you're tempted by your players. This happens 20 times a game. Your players are doing this. A lot of coaches just look at the second row. All right, let's take the timeout and challenge. And the reason I bring it up, 29 seconds to go, 5-point game. There is a play at the rim where Siakam is called for a foul on Anunoby trying to get a putback. They call foul on Siakam. Without the challenge, that's 2 free throws. The game is going to be over. It'll be up 7, 29 seconds to go. Instead, they win the challenge, hit a 3. It's a 2-point game, and then they extended it with some missed free throws out of the Knicks, and of course, the late game heroic. He held on to it, and it really, to me, changed the tide in the game.
Because when your players are doing like this, it's like when your kids are going, Mom, Mom, Mom. Finally, you're like, what? What do you want?
That's right.
Look, the Knicks, they let this one get away. Yes. They had it. Now they got to bounce back. How do they do that?
This is a massive gut punch because you really think on a night in which Indiana jumped them early, it could not have played a better offensive first quarter, but you look up at the end of the quarter, you're up 2 somehow because the Knicks were that good early. Second quarter, kind of a shootout. Third quarter, the Knicks started to take control of the game toward the end of the third quarter. You feel like you've done everything. You just survived a run with Jalen Brunson on the bench with 5 fouls in which you outscored them 14-0. And I think what it does is gives the Pacers the belief any circumstances they face now in this series, they're never out of the game, and there's going to be constant doubt on the part of the Knicks if they get another lead in the second half. There's no doubt. This could be the kind of thing that we're going to be talking about when this series is over if Indiana wins it.
It's the kind of thing that eats at you. Speaking of doubt, we're going to look ahead to Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, why this man is doubting the Timberwolves.
Move over, Reggie Miller. The New York Knicks have a new villain. Tyrese Haliburton did it again. He hit the game-tying shot to send Game 1 into overtime and power another improbable Pacers comeback. Indiana was down 14 with 3:44 remaining in the fourth quarter, and ESPN Analytics gave the Knicks a 99% chance to win the game. But the Pacers began charging back thanks to 6 3-pointers from Aaron Nesmith, which ties an NBA record for most threes in a playoff quarter before Haliburton's heroics. As Nesmith said, "This is what we live for. It's special, and we just keep continuing to do it time and time again." We'll see if they can do it again, Game 2 on Friday. In New York, Jamal Collier, ESPN.
And then in other NBA news, he had an MVP-type game last night, and now Shai Gilgeous-Alexander officially owns the title. He won the scoring title this season. He led OKC to a league-high 68 wins, and now SGA joins Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook as the third player in franchise history to win MVP. But now comes the next task, winning the NBA title, something the regular season MVP has not done in 9 straight seasons, not since Steph did it 2014-2015. That is the longest drought by a league MVP in NBA history. But if you go back even 25 years, you still only find 4 players who have done it in the same season: Steph, LeBron, Tim Duncan, and Shaq. We made this man stick around for another segment because, yes, SGA is a problem for the Timberwolves. However, that implies it's a problem for their defense. You think that it's actually an offensive problem. Care to explain?
Yeah, listen, Minnesota completely got away from their identity as a team. They shot 51 threes in this game. There was not any balance in their offense. Typically, they're going to get point paints out of Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle. They're going to get offensive rebounding out of Rudy Gobert. Somehow, Jaden McDaniels is going to slash and make some baskets in the paint. None of that happened. They had no fast break points in this game. The pace was too slow for them to play against a half-court defense as good as OKC's. They've got to figure out a way to have a little bit more oomph in their offense in the first 6 seconds of the clock, make or miss, get the ball up, get into attack mode earlier, and obviously Anthony Edwards has to be much more aggressive. 13 shot attempts. He's only done that once in the postseason, and that was a blowout win against Golden State when he was on the bench. 13 shots in a competitive game when your team needs you to have a run at some point. And the ankle could have been a factor. Yeah. He wouldn't allude to it. I give him credit for that. He doesn't want excuses. I get it. I think it was a factor. Let's see how he is in game 2. He has to get 18, 20, maybe 25 shots against that defense. He's the one guy that can get him off.
The 0 fast break points. That just... Anyway, game 2, Thursday, also known as tomorrow.
8:03 to go. And there it is. The New York Post digging up Reggie's choke sign from 31 years ago. Very similar, eerily similar for Knicks fans as Tyrese Haliburton channels Reggie Miller in the win. And we're used to seeing this from the Pacers this year. The comeback started in the first round, trailing by 7, final minute of OT against the Bucks. They went from down those 7 to a first-round series win with a blitz of points late. Conference semis against the top-seeded Cavs. Down 7, Haliburton says, no, sir. Step back 3 to steal game 2. Indiana ended up winning in 5. And then game 1 of the conference finals. I'd say it's a comeback of the ages, but it's happened 3 times already. Since 1998, no team had ever won when trailing by 9 in the final minute until the comeback Pacers went to New York. NBA senior writer Tim Bontemps was there in the building tonight, charged with the daunting task of bundling that game up in a nice, tidy package. Tim, Pacers are like a weed, very hard to kill. How do they keep winning games like this?
I mean, that's the real thing looking back at this game, David. There was about 2 minutes ago, the Pacers were down 8, and I turned to a couple people next to me and said, are they going to do this again? And that's because this is now the 3rd time this team has had a comeback from 7, 8, or 9 points inside the final minute of a playoff game in the last month. It had hardly ever happened in NBA history before. Coming into tonight's game over the last 27 years, there had been 0 wins in the last 1,414 of these games, and the Pacers won it. And how do they do it? Because they relentlessly wear down their opponents. They're playing at a frenetic pace all the time. At the end of these games, Tyrese Haliburton said they're almost like a college team because of how they stay together as a group. The amount of time they've played together, he credited the front office for keeping this group together. So they have belief that they can come back in these situations, and they just continue to relentlessly wear down their opponents. And you saw it in this game, just like against the Cavs in the second round, just like against the Bucks in the first round. The Knicks were forced into making a lot of mental mistakes, missed free throws, costly turnovers, etc. But the Pacers still had to take advantage. Aaron Nesmith hit a bunch of big shots. Tyrese Haliburton obviously had the crazy step back. And now we're sitting here with the Pacers having yet again made history and given themselves home court advantage in this series.
Yeah, all credit to the Pacers. Unbelievable comeback. But the Knicks had them, and they let them off the hook. So where does that team go from here?
Well, David, the Knicks just did this to the Boston Celtics in the last round, right? In both games 1 and 2 of that series on the road, the Knicks were down by 20 points and came back and won. And that proved to be the difference in them advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. So the quest now for the Knicks is to come back Friday in Game 2 and not allow that to happen to them. And look, if you're the Knicks, if you look at the first 45 minutes of this game, there are a lot of positives you could take away from it. Jalen Brunson got whatever he wanted, just like he did in the series last year. Karl Towns had a phenomenal game, thoroughly outplayed Miles Turner. Mitchell Robinson came off the bench, had a massive impact. One of the keys in this series coming in was whether Indiana could keep him off the boards. They had no chance of doing so in this game. So if you are the Knicks, you look at the tape of this game through those first 45 minutes, there's a lot to look at and say, we can come back on Friday, get Game 2, and even this series up at a game apiece. But these are the kind of games, David, as we just saw in that last round, they're the ones that can really haunt a team going forward. And if the Knicks don't win this series, you know that all summer long they're going to be thinking about those final minute of this game and how they let this one slip away.
They'll get a chance to get back even with the Pacers in a couple nights. Tim Bontemps giving us the very latest from Madison Square Garden. Well, the win probability for the Knicks peaked at 99.8% tonight, according to ESPN Analytics.
Ouch.
That's a pretty reliable indicator, right?
Yeah.
That's head out to the parking lot. That's that kind of number. But then Indy closes the fourth on a 23-9 run. Chris Herring now with more on the Knicks' heartbreaking Game 1 loss.
After the dust settled on their stunning collapse in Game 1, the Knicks admitted their effort waned as they let a 14-point lead slip in the final 3 minutes of regulation. Defensively, we lit off the gas. The intensity and physicality weren't there, Josh Hart said. Offensively, we were playing slower and more stagnant. It looked like we were playing not to lose. This was a total reversal from what we've grown accustomed to seeing out of the Knicks during this playoff run. In the second-round victory over Boston alone, New York had 3 double-digit comebacks in second halves to confound the defending champions. Wednesday night's collapse, which left the Garden in stunned silence, was an entirely different experience. Jalen Brunson, who finished with 43 points but struggled to take care of the ball late, said as much. In the playoffs, when you win, it's the best thing ever. When you lose, it's the worst thing ever, he said. Now Brunson and the Knicks are tasked with regrouping so they don't find themselves with an even worse feeling, heading to Indianapolis down 2-0. With the Knicks, Chris Herring, ESPN.
All right, take a look at this. The Pacers recorded their third win this postseason when trailing by 7 or more in the final minute of the fourth quarter or overtime. Since 1998, teams are now 4 and 1,659 in those situations. And 3 of the wins are by the Pacers this postseason. I'm not making this up. The only other team with a win is the 2014 Thunder against the Clippers.
Tiếp theo, các bạn sẽ gấp nó ra đây cho mình nhé. Rồi sau đó các bạn sẽ gấp cái này chéo sang đây cho mình. Sau đó mình sẽ gập cái phần này vào bên trong nhé. Tiếp theo thì mình sẽ gấp nốt cái phần cánh bên này lên. Rồi bây giờ mình sẽ đi tô cái phần mắt cho con chim này nhé. Thôi mình đã tô xong được cái phần mắt cho nó rồi nha. Sau đó các bạn sẽ tô một cái màu hồng ở đây cho mình. Phần mỏ mình sẽ dùng màu xanh lá để mình tô nhé. Vậy là mình đã hoàn thành xong được con chim màu tím này rồi nha. Mình sẽ tô thêm một chút ở phần bên trong này. Vậy là mình đã hoàn thành xong được con chim màu tím này rồi. Chúc các bạn làm thành công và hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo nhé. Bye bye. Hello, xin chào tất cả mọi người. Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn gấp một con lợn màu hồng như thế này nhé. Bây giờ các bạn vào làm của mình luôn nhé. Rồi, ok. Để bắt đầu vào làm thì các bạn sẽ chuẩn bị cho mình những dụng cụ như sau. Ở đây mình có chuẩn bị một tờ giấy màu hồng này. Tiếp theo các bạn sẽ chuẩn bị cho mình một cây kéo, một cái bút chì, một cái thước này. Cuối cùng là một cây súng bắn keo như thế này nhá. Đó, các bạn sẽ chuẩn bị các cái dụng cụ như vậy nhá. Bây giờ mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn vào làm này. Các bạn sẽ đo cho mình kích thước của cái tờ giấy này. Nó sẽ là 14 cm nhé. Rồi mình đã đo xong được 3 cái góc này của nó rồi nha. Bây giờ mình sẽ kẻ nó thành một cái ô vuông này. Rồi mình đã kẻ xong được một cái ô vuông như thế này rồi nha. Bây giờ mình sẽ dùng cây kéo này để mình cắt cái ô vuông này ra nhé. Rồi mình đã cắt xong được cái ô vuông như này rồi. Đầu tiên thì bây giờ các bạn sẽ gấp đôi cái tờ giấy này vào cho mình. Gấp xong mình sẽ dở nó ra. Rồi bây giờ mình sẽ gấp hai bên này của nó vào phần giữa này nhé. Tiếp theo bây giờ mình sẽ gấp tiếp phần bên này nha.
Horses give you a true connection to something outside of yourself. There's a partnership where you're discovering something together. New Mexico is called the land of enchantment for a reason. There is a vibration to it.
Is there any hope for Jalen Ramsey to be back as a member of the Miami Dolphins in 2025? What are the expectations for Jonnu Smith coming off his lone Pro Bowl season, the only Pro Bowler on the 2025 team? And what was the Dolphins defensive staff's reaction to having most of the draft picks in 2025 used on defensive players? We will address that in this week's episode of Dolphins in Depth. I am your host,